need one you. No need one you. Need one you. No need one you. Need one you. No need one you. Need one you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the tobacco control story of Africa, and today we're going all the way to Uganda. I'm joined by Richard Baguma, who will tell us more about the tobacco control journey in Uganda. Karibu sana.
Asante sana, nashukuru.
Your Kiswahili is good.
It helps me to ask for water and food.
When you're in Kenya?
When I'm in Eastern Africa, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So tell us, when did all this begin? When did you join tobacco control and start the advocacy?
I'm not sure that I started with tobacco control. I think the journey actually started with tobacco consumption. Yeah, I think my involvement in tobacco control started with my being a smoker.
Okay.
And so I smoked and stopped smoking. And I think that's where my tobacco control journey started. So the formal journey is what people talk about. But I think it starts informally. I think tobacco control in a way starts in the head before you go to do anything. And so I think I kind of lived with the conviction that using tobacco is a bad thing. Yeah. So when I got opportunity then to become public and try to do something more. So I used to do things. I used to speak to young people all the time. I used to speak to my cousins and my nieces, and I would tell them that tobacco is a bad thing. And that, you see, using tobacco, like a lot of other things, it creeps on you. Yeah, you do not plan and say, I'm going to start using. Usually it starts, like fun, something of fun and temporary. Yeah, it's not like you're planning, I'm going to become a smoker, I'm going to start smoking. And then it creeps on you. And the thing called addiction, you experience it, but you don't realize it. Yeah, you don't realize that you are an addict. It's a lifestyle. It's and so that's really, in my way, that's my journey, how it started, I think.
So for how many years did you smoke before?
I didn't smoke for long, in relative terms, but I smoked for long. I started when I was 13. I had entered what they call Form 1, senior one. And in school, bigger boys were smoking, and they started by sending us, the newer boys, the younger boys, to go and help them light the cigarettes. So you would go to the kitchen to help light for the bigger boys the cigarette. But you see, when you light a cigarette, if you don't puff on it, it goes out by the time you reach where the one who has sent you is. So you go back. So you learn to keep the fire burning. You have to puff, and so that you can take it when it's still lit. And so that's how it started. Yeah, and that was 13 years, and then I went through university. So that could have been maybe 8 years.
And those days, were there regulations in Uganda around?
Nothing.
Was there any ban? How were the regulations that time?
Nothing. We smoking was a sex thing.
No age restriction.
No, it was a sex thing. I mean, it's supposed to be self-regulated. Yeah, the companies are supposed to kind of be kind and tell their clients that this is not a good thing.
Yeah.
So there was nothing. No regulation. I mean, you were not allowed to smoke in school, so it was you'd cheat and you'd hide, but it was it.
No regulations. And how was the tobacco industry then in terms of marketing?
Very strong.
Advertising, promoting?
Very strong. They sponsored sports. They sponsored school events. Because they had money. they advertised it. It was a success thing. It was a macho thing. Yeah. So that's why for us the younger boys we admired. Yeah, cowboy. There were cowboy films in the Wild West. It's a thing of power and macho and adulthood. Yeah, and stage. You have to puff and push smoke in a creative way through your nose. Yeah, so it was a thing to do.
So this is around which year? In the
1980, maybe still year 4.
1994. Was Uganda a signatory to the Framework Convention?
You are out to the signature.
Not yet.
No.
Yeah.
I think those are recent things. Yeah. Those are recent things. All those, the regulations, the controls, the international conventions, these are recent.
Okay, so moving on now to your campus days. How was the tobacco industry then? And
so I go to campus when I'm smoking. When you are smoking, you are more serious about it. You have to buy it. It affects your appetite. It affects your feeding. When you don't have a cigarette, you don't eat. Because now the body has already been altered and it's being commanded.
Yes.
By tobacco use. You don't sleep if you haven't smoked. So you are in the addiction phase now. Yeah. So when I went to campus, some of the people were in fact learning how to smoke at campus. Yeah. And there were not too many people going to campus anyway. There's one university at that time in Uganda, so it was just one university. So there were not too many people. But at that age is where many people are actually starting to smoke. They are getting the freedom. They are out of home. Not so much parental control. But a couple of things happened for me. I was hiding. So I would hide from my parents, and if I had to hide from, I don't want to show I'm smoking. I don't want it to smell on me.
The society frowned upon it.
Yeah. So why do you go dancing or to a public place, boozing or a happening place? Then you can smoke. It was okay to smoke in public,
but not at.
But not in the campus. Not you even where your parents or uncles are, you're hiding. So in my mind, I was also conscious that this is not the right thing. And I think many of us are, that we know. You can't sit in a bus and smoke. You can't sit. So there was that thinking around it. But it kind of was being promoted as something of adulthood, freedom. A kind of a rivalry. So at campus, I went into student leadership. And that also had a bit of restrictions in a way, because you are a bit conscious about your image. So, and then I went to work in broadcasting very quickly, to work for radio and television. And then there were restrictions in studio. So I always had it at the back of my mind that what I'm doing is not right. And then I started scaling down. That's when I really started scaling down. Towards thinking about stopping it. But it was at that time it was not easy. So I scaled down. By the time I finished campus, though, I had stopped. Right. Yeah. But it was hard to tell my friends that I have stopped.
And it started causing any health.
Yes, especially cough. I would have coughs all the time. But I was also conscious that when I have smoked, I am not smelling nice. I was also conscious of that. But it was mainly the cough that would be on and off, that wouldn't go away. And when you'd go to ask for medical advice, the first question was, do you drink? Do you smoke?
Yeah.
So sometimes you tell the doctor a lie, that you don't smoke.
Okay.
But they have asked you because now you know that this is also affecting your cough. But it's not so serious at that time.
Yeah.
So it's not healthy, but you're addicted.
You already hooked on products that you have to consistently take. Okay, so you're done with campus. You're now in the work environment. Are you talking about the harms that tobacco causes in your workplace?
No.
You joined a radio
And television.
and TV.
Yes. And there was some people smoking. Yeah, some of the popular, news readers, the popular TV guys. And on that, I was also not separating the use of tobacco from the use of drugs. But I was convinced that we needed to talk to young people about the dangers of smoking. Doesn't matter whether it's drugs or tobacco. So with a few colleagues, we started something we called the Uganda Broadcasters Forum. And we would go to ask, there was a Secretary General, co-founder. So it was bringing my colleagues together around this initiative. And we would go to schools. So I would go approach school head teachers, high schools, secondary schools, and say, we want to come and talk to your students about, drugs and tobacco, cigarettes use and the dangers. And many times people would be very happy to welcome us because the people would come with, I would say, the talk is about so and so and so and so, who are the popular television and radio personalities. So people haven't seen them physically, they have seen them on TV or heard them. They are happy
To see the celebrities.
to have the celebrated people come.
Not necessarily about drugs.
No, it's not about the message. It's not about the issue. It is to have this. But also this popularity had convening power. So if I know the students come, all the teachers come because they want to see these broadcasters. So it had a convening power. It also had a knock-off effect. Then it would create a story. Yeah, so we are the ones in charge of the story. I was the sub-editor and the news reporter. So I could actually create a story and then also ask my friends. So we started being the newsmakers as well. Yeah, so we visited this school and, there was this one. So even some schools started asking, can we go? But I was not consciously a tobacco control advocate. I was just coming to talk about this behavior, deviant behavior, and using these products of drugs and tobacco, and oftentimes talk about alcohol as well. So the UNICEF then learned about our initiative. Because to be in the media, our newspaper colleagues would write, and then they approached us and said, this in the chip, and then my boss said it's Baguma's thing, and then we started talking, and they were very happy, and they said, can you go talk about your, because it was a self-made. Can you go to New York and speak at a meeting of UNICEF about this? Okay, so why not?
So was this the first time you left Uganda?
No, the first time was the previous year. I had been, I am, what can I say? I get into things. I find myself getting into things. So I had been applying to whatever place I think I would go to train. I just wanted to train myself as a better broadcaster. So the previous year I had been in Israel for training and I'd been at Duke University for a short fellowship. But New York, this was the first, time go to New York and you go to the UN. Yeah, so that was something. And that was something. And so the real tobacco control, tobacco, understanding that tobacco is an issue and it should be focused on as tobacco, came much later. It was now a combined thing of addiction behavior. So I was really talking about, we were talking about the things in combination. But also why tobacco remained on the radar. Two of my colleagues, very popular broadcasters, actually were smokers. So they would talk about tobacco from an experiential point. So my own experience was how I started. Was to share how I started. How you don't start consciously. How you start jokingly and you think you can control it. And then it takes over. And for them, they were talking about the real challenges because some of them had been smoking for a while. And then actually one of them died of cancer. And we think, yes, it was. And we think it was because of the long-term tobacco. Yeah.
How old was it's a he?
It's a he.
Yeah, how old was he?
No, he was just 57.
But that's relatively young.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was just 57. He was relatively young, but he had been smoking since he was a teenager. Imagine if I was still smoking now. I started when I was a teenager. I would have been smoking for many years. And the effects can manifest.
True. Over time.
Yeah,
and manifest over time. So you were in New York. How was that experience?
It was kind of eye-opening. The realization that you can actually do things. There was the realization that you can actually do things. It is within your reach to do things. That thought that gets planted inside, that you can actually take initiatives and get to places. Yeah, because you have come, you're a rural boy, relatively, studied from up-country schools, and happened to be helped by nature, that you are clever enough to compete to go to university, and so you are not. Sometimes you are not that aware of your potential. Yeah, so we go and this initiative sounded like, wow. You should ask me, so how did you start? Why did you start? The usual questions that people are wondering. So you explain, and it's something you are doing out of conviction.
And they're surprised that it's
they are quite shocked, yes, quite shocked. But also, the other thing that came out was that I had started with my friends another initiative, the United Nations Association of Uganda. And we were not known by the global office. So going to New York also helped connect with the global office. So a lot of the things that have happened after built on that foundation.
And what motivated the starting of the United Nations Association of Uganda?
For us, it was the desire to empower ourselves to compete internationally. That we felt that we were being trained and equipped to look at ourselves from the national borders, within our borders. And when we went into student leadership, we realized that we have the capacity to be beyond our borders.
Exactly.
So, but we had no framework. So when we came across this framework of the United Nations Association, we thought, let's form this and become international global people. Really? That was beyond Uganda. That was it. And I think it has continued to shape our outlook to the world, but also our involvement initiatives. That they are just not national.
What are some of the wins that the association has had?
I think for me the most important is the number of people who have come through the association and have become international in nature. International civil servants, workers of international organizations, workers of international NGOs, people who work in the diplomatic world. And for me, it's that the numbers of people who have believed in themselves, but also got convinced to look for opportunities. So just today, I was just coming here, and I received an email from one of the young people say, I'm going to Addis Ababa for the training in tobacco industry monitoring. Thank you very much for giving me the information and encouraging me to apply. So it's just these kinds of things. But now, because it's over the years, I find people in places.
So it's the impact,
yes, particularly on. We started with ourselves to build our confidence and our conviction that we should compete for these things. That's why I keep telling you that you see the things you're doing for you now may not make sense to you, that much sense to you. But you are interviewing me from Uganda. How did we meet? It is because of your...
How did we meet? Did we meet in South Africa?
Absolutely. So imagine how that has translated South Africa, Nairobi, whatever.
It must have been South Africa.
So it makes... You don't realize when you're self-driven and when you're trying things. Now for us, we wanted a framework where we can go to universities, where we can go to high schools and actually fish out people and make them conscious that the world is way larger than your borders. But your education system, your interaction, even your well-meaning parents and aunties, they kind of want you to operate within
within the borders,
within the places they can control. So they get worried when Elvina says, I am flying to Istanbul for a week. Then your mother starts getting all nightmares how you are going to do this or how that is going to happen. So that framework is what for me, and their products is what gives me this conviction that we need to continue.
Still on impact, how has your work in civil society been? Like, what has the role civil society played in Uganda, especially in tobacco control matters? And
now, let me give you an example. Now, currently, we've just formed a tobacco taxation coalition for Uganda. Just a few months ago. We are not yet more than 3 months, I think. And we had not realized how long Uganda had taken without increasing tobacco taxes. Now, because we have been in tobacco control, we had a policy done, national policy. We had a law, a National Tobacco Control Act, which we think meets the World Health Organization standards. We had regulations developed. We have a national action plan for tobacco implementation. We have a multi-sectoral National Tobacco Control Committee chaired by the Office of the Prime Minister. I was part of that in the generation. We have attracted the Center for Tobacco Control in Africa. It's based in Uganda. We have built young tobacco control advocates. We continue to do that. We have trained the media. We have quite a number of media advocates. We had friends in Parliament who have also traveled for tobacco control work. One of us in the coalition has been awarded the Africa Award by Bloomberg. We went to South Africa to receive that. So
who was this?
The Ugandan National Health Consumers Organization, the coordinator of the coalition. Yes. We have the Ministry of Health recognizing the level of tobacco control. It's now at the level of Assistant Commissioner, the one who heads the tobacco control unit. The other time it was mixed up and, with everything and law. The budget has, increased. There have been all these, but the last global tobacco survey showed a decrease in tobacco use in Uganda. Yes.
And this also includes the nicotine products.
Yeah, but a lot of the products are banned by our law. So the ones that may be coming into the country, they do, but they are illegal. Yeah, and then you can really, it's hard to find anybody smoking in public.
So nicotine pouches in Uganda are banned?
Yeah, the nicotine products that are flavored, that they vapes, they are all banned by law.
That's a great move.
Yeah, so that's why we think we had a very good law. We are advocated for a very good law. And so we are now working on taxation because we found now, when we started this taxation, we have discovered that we have spent 7 years as a country, without increasing once taxes on tobacco. This is despite our crying as a country that our budget has deficits. This is despite the dangers and the problems that tobacco causes to our health sector, to our all sectors. So when you say that we have built on this, and when we do go to build a coalition now, it doesn't disturb us because we have been in tobacco control and the organizations have owned the agenda. So it doesn't disturb. So when you look from the legislative side, from the action planning, from resource mobilization, from having a cadre of trained, because we have a cadre of trained people. We have had a couple of people going to do masters in South Africa, and also a lot of fellowships within the Makerere School of Public Health itself, which has been part of us championing tobacco control. And so that for me, but also orientation for health workers, because some of them didn't focus on tobacco as a key driver for health challenges, as a key risk factor for many things, including, problems of reproduction. That was an area that was not being thought about much. Erectile dysfunction, low sperm count, and therefore failing to produce, low birth weight of children. The various workers sometimes were not asking their mothers if the problems of reproductive health that they have were because they consume tobacco.
Or they're exposed.
Or they are exposed. Yes, consumption is many times not direct. Yeah, it is second hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes third hand. Yes. So for people to be conscious that your consumption of tobacco actually can affect your child, who is still delicate, whose lungs are still growing, and you because fathers, we had all these testimonies. Fathers would come, and the children come to welcome you. But when you enter your house, your relaxation thing is lighting. A cigarette. And you affect all these kids.
Everyone.
So we have had these things. Now, for me, one of the tests I do is when I go to a public place. I just come in the bar or and try to see if there is a no smoking sign, which should be by law, which is by law, you are supposed to have it. But also smoking now. So that kind of, even on the street, it's not so common to find people on the street. The conscientization, the noise making in the world was quite big, and now the factory that was in Kampala closed and shifted to Kenya, I think.
You have smoking zones.
No, they're
also banned in Uganda.
Yeah, they're banned. You're supposed to be 50 meters away from the public place. So they're not smoking zones.
Then the civil society has done a lot.
Oh yes.
The government.
Oh yes.
Also.
Oh yes. But of course we were cooperating very well with the government. We were friends with the government for WHO.
What about international donors? Did they have a big impact in pushing for these laws, helping civil society, governments, advance tobacco control?
Yeah, there were not many donors. I don't think there are many donors within the tobacco control realm. I still think that people who are in development financing have not fully appreciated the contribution of tobacco to underdevelopment or to undermining development outcomes. I think they have not appreciated yet the cost of tobacco to undermining development. When we started tobacco control work, we were surprised by one of the organizations that was talking about tobacco and its problems. It is one of the child-focused organizations. I think it's called Plan. And for them, because they were supporting children in school, during the planting and harvesting season, the children they support would not go to school. So they would see a lot of school missing school during a certain season. And so, because they were concerned about the investment they were making in Spain and for their children's education, and therefore they wanted good outcomes, this absence, school children's absences, were affecting the performance of the children. So they went to find out, and they found that because of the intensive demand of tobacco growing and harvesting, the children would miss school. The parents would force them to come and participate in this. So they started campaigning against tobacco growing and consumption. They also discovered that in the growing areas, children would start as young as 9. So they would have all these other issues. And then they would also have skin disease. So which later I was told is the green leaf. They would have a lot of skin disease. So they started themselves. They were kind of an unlikely partner with us in that. But it is because they realized their investment. Now, so that's what we started doing. If you are an organization in women health, in reproductive health, in other health,
cancer,
if you are in child labor, yes, and child development, if you are in soil conservation, because tobacco's consumptive ways of soil degrades soil fertility and soil productivity. That is why tobacco growing is a very heavy fertilizer consumer because of the degradation of the tobacco plant to the soil. If you are concerned about air quality,
You should be.
yeah, if you have a factory, then you know. So it took time. It takes time for other development actors to see tobacco for the development negative impact it has, and so financing was quite a challenge. But we found the two philanthropies, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Bloomberg philanthropy, were the ones supporting tobacco control in different spaces within international organizations, governments, and CSOs. And so we got good partners. The Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids was a useful one. The Africa Capacity Building Foundation was a useful one. And then these labor-based, the labor rights organizations. And so that was very useful for us to find the funding to fund this work.
You had spoken earlier about CTCA. Tell us more about it and the capacity it's building in Uganda.
CTCA was madness.
And you formed it.
No, the way we started CTCA was madness. Now, I have an uncle who is a researcher. At that time, he was at the Makerere Institute of Social Research. So, he's a very ingenious man, and he was going through reading about things, and he came across the advert by the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization asked institutions, organizations to compete to host a center for tobacco control in Africa. A center for tobacco control. So he knew our interest in addiction fighting. He's a very addiction control activist. And he came and said, we can try this. We looked at it. It was a $3.5 million project or something like that. We said, no, we have not handled money like this. So we are not sure. He said, no, but you guys are the ones who always have the courage to try. What has happened? So, okay, we take the challenge. And then we realized, as always, we needed to create a consortium so that we can have players in with the necessary competencies that the advert, the call for proposals are required. It was a bit interesting because we didn't find a lot of interest among professionals to work with us. So we finally got the Makerere School of Public Health, the gentleman who was there as the dean, and we got another organization, an association of doctors and health workers, which were into community health. Yes. And so we formed a consortium, and we decided to apply. When we were applying, a lot of the professionals were not interested in giving us even their CVs because they thought it was a futile attempt. So I had to put my CV, my uncle, my sisters, so that we could just compete. And it took us time because of the nature of building a consortium, and the not so much conviction that we would win. So we finished our document late. And we are not sure that if we submit it online, we shall have the response. So we actually decided that I use our family money, to actually fly to Geneva and take the document. That was the faith, yes. That was the level of faith.
You funded
that we had, yes. We went and added in the document. And we were evaluated.
Which is?
As competitive. 2000, I think.
Okay.
No, 2010, I think. 2009, 2010. And we were evaluated competitive. And then we got a ride from WHO. We are coming to in fact, one of our most our steepest competitors was Cambridge. Yeah. And they said, we are coming to evaluate if indeed what you put on the paper
is what
on the ground. And we were not intimidated because we knew that we were available on the ground. But they came and we started to talk. And then the WHO Afro, the WHO office in Uganda, the Ministry of Health, and And that's how we started this thing. And we said, okay, Makerere University, you have more different, more facilities. Can you host? And that's how Makerere started hosting. So I went into the steering committee. My sister became the capacity building specialist. My uncle became the, I don't know, something. So it was like a fancy thing. Because people had refused to give us their CVs. It was a long shot. It was a very long shot. Yeah, but it worked.
But here's a big lesson I've gotten, that you had to use your own resources to get things done.
Yes, and the resource that was most taxing was both the brain and time.
Not the money.
Because the document needed a lot of time and a lot of brain work. And to get people to even share their expertise, revising your documents, giving it, the touch that was a winning touch, took a lot of convincing and a lot of mobilizing. So the monetary contribution at the very end was like, we have invested so much. What about the last mile investment? So it's at $2,000 or something. You say, okay, let's just go.
That's a big win.
It was a very big win. Yes, it was a very,
because the whole of Africa is benefiting.
Absolutely.
Not just Uganda.
Absolutely. And the lessons were enormous for me.
What are some of the lessons?
The lessons were enormous for me.
Experience.
I think one of them is that you have to have crazy faith. About when you are convinced about something, you need to have crazy faith. But the second one is you have to build a network. You just have to construct a network. It is simply not possible to just do it on your own. So building a network. The third thing is that you must be very, very, very careful about sustaining trust. Yes, because gaining trust is very hard. People don't quickly trust, especially where you're going to use their CVs. You want their contribution in time and brain. You are looking for money. There's no guarantee about, but also sustaining
the trust.
Yes, very, very critical. But finally, for me, was the audacity to try, not to feel that you are below par. Because what is the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is that you will not get the thing. Then so you have tried.
You've tried and you've failed, but you
just have the audacity to try. Yes, I think you are very audacious to try this thing that you are throwing online, and whether they will watch it, whether you want to.
It's there.
So that audacity, I think, was an important lesson.
And what are some of the challenges you faced, especially in bringing people together in this work? Because you said earlier, not many people are interested in it, or they don't see the connection to the work they're doing. So how has it been?
So one of the greatest challenges was to explain with some form of evidence why this is important. Because so what evidence are you going to give people? Because people want justification. Why should they spend their time on this or not that? So I think that was very difficult. So were you coming from personal stories, testimonies, personal examples, with some little literature? Because there was more Ugandan specific, there very little African specific.
Any research
literature
that was done?
We found, for example, one report that was amazing. We found that the Uganda Cancer Institute, which is the premier referral space for cancer treatment in Uganda, and also cancer training. One of the studies done for a master's of something by one of the students had actually discovered that 75% of the oropharyngeal cancers, the mouth, tongue, throat, esophagus, those that 75% of them had actually occurred in people who had history of smoking. And this was just clinical information. They went and did a study of the clinical information in the last 10 years. That was their thesis. And so, for us, this was not coincidental. Neither was it accidental. It was. So we said, on this one, we have evidence. The other evidence was the international. So many people died, so many. But so how do you justify? The other thing was looking for money to do this work. Because there were very, very few people who relate to this from the development financing side. And that's always a challenge because you need money. So that was also a problem. The third was that there were really no tobacco control knowledge and skills capacity. So that was difficult. But perhaps the most difficult challenge was the lies, the misinformation, the disinformation, and the money available to the tobacco industry. The pushback by the tobacco industry was perhaps the biggest challenge because they had over a long time positioned themselves as money makers, big contributors to the economy, helpers of farmers and what, scholarship givers, very strong corporate responsible citizens, you know. So to come against this background was tough. That's very tough. And then because the plantation workers union was very strong and they had been influenced by the tobacco industry to put in the speech that we were undermining the national economy. So we were being paid by foreign groups to undermine the national economy by attacking this very great contributor to the taxes and economy of Uganda. And that is very serious. Because in our law, that is economic sabotage and it is treasonous. So it was a very serious allegation.
Have they ever taken you to court? Or
they have taken the tobacco industry always uses the litigation.
Yes, as one of
the so that one.
They take the government or civil society?
No, they were taking one, it was the civil society, the other it was government. They do multiple litigation.
To keep people busy,
they keep you busy.
As they do.
And also threaten. They keep you threatened. They are going to bankrupt you. They are going to, all these threats. But we also, I think now, thinking about it, we had very strong judges. These became deterrents to the industries, the litigation tactics.
All right. As we wind up, do you believe we can have a tobacco-free Africa? And what will it take for us to get there?
No, I think a tobacco-free Africa, in my view, should be contextual. And this is why. Because I think that there are some traditional roles that tobacco plays in African tradition. And if we allow the tobacco industry to define for us tobacco-free, even these issues will come in. For me, a tobacco-free Africa should be where there is no harm arising out of use of tobacco. So it should be the tobacco harm-free Africa. The harm is in the products that we are consuming. That's where the harm. If we have a tobacco consumption-free Africa, and I think it's possible. So to answer to your question, yes.
It's possible.
I think it's possible. I think that Africans, like every other human beings, love themselves. They want to live healthy. They want to live longer. I'm sure if we invested in the education and sensitization, but also if we invested in the legal frameworks and the enforcement of these legal frameworks, because I think that's where we are weakest on this continent. The enforcement, I think, is the weakest.
Okay. Parting shot, what would be your advice to young tobacco control champions and also to civil societies, because you have a lot of experience, a wealth of experience in handling civil society organizations and government relations. What would be your advice to them?
For individuals, just don't use tobacco. That's the first one. It doesn't matter who you are, young or old, civil society or corporate, just don't use it. Just don't use it. If you have started using it, stop. Don't use it. If you haven't started, please. And then spread the message. Tell your friends. You see, it is being complicit in allowing your friends to die by your silence or acquiescence. Many people say, me, I don't smoke, but when my friends will go out and they are taking shisha, oh, well, me, I'll not take, but I'll be around. You are worse, you are a second-hand smoker. But you also know it's dangerous, that's what you are not taking. So talk. Voice this. Write about it. The social media called it out. So be known as a tobacco control advocate, and it is because you love your friends, because you love your colleagues, because you love humanity. That's really what we do. On the civil society side, just work together. Just coalesce. Just form coalitions. Just form associations. Just come together. I can tell you the mountains you can move
Together
are amazing. Yes, so come together and be very professional and very honest. I tell people that every time you are a tobacco control advocate outside, and then you are on a pot of shisha or on a vape, in the evening, you have undermined everything that you have told the people. Just don't do it. Yeah.
What are some of the strategies that the civil society and governments can use to counter the tobacco industry? I've seen previously people using, petitions and having marches in Uganda. Which are those strategies?
Okay, so there are two things for me. So a petition, those are for me tactical, operational things. Those are tactics. I think for me the strategic things are getting evidence and data. For you to argue your case before any group, you need to have concrete, well-researched evidence and data. I think that's a very important one. And we saw it all the time until we were able to find the money to do a cost-benefit analysis on the entire economy of the country and show that in Uganda, for every 1 shilling you got out of tobacco income, not just taxation, but all income, you lost 4 in dealing with the health and other economic problems arising out of tobacco. So we could argue that all the income from tobacco, we lose it and we do another 3 times or 4 times more. But also scientifically to get to have the evidence communicated in a simple way that the 7 commonest cancers in Uganda, the biggest risk factor is tobacco use. That evidence, I think, is a very important strategy. The other thing is building coalitions around civil society, but with government and private sector and cultural leadership and religious institutions. The coalition building is very important. The other thing is the media, mobilizing and capacity building the media. Very important, and other professional bodies. The tactics, let me tell you one of the tactics we used. Those you change around the time. We just got dummies of coffins and got young people dressed in black the morning, and we took them one morning around all the major roundabouts of Kampala City. You know how people, when they see coffins, they all stop, and then we just wrote on them, and in white we say tobacco kills. That was all. The entire media landscape, all the TVs came to record. So the tactics are. So you can deploy tactics depending on where you are, depending on the product that you are facing. Okay. But the strategy must be coherent and must be consistent.
Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome.
Yeah.
I wish you luck with taking the voice of tobacco control in Africa out to the world. Just don't stop.
Yeah. We need to tell the story.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Tobacco Control Story of Africa, featuring Uganda. And we just listened to Richard Baguma explaining to us, the milestones that Uganda has had. And I hope that more countries embrace this way, the way that Uganda has tackled its tobacco control. And looking forward to the next episode. Please subscribe and like. Thank you so much.